Well, look what we have here. We got some brand new polls on Polywave and some other websites and some other research institutions that actually did release some new polls following the Justin Trudeau resignation. Obviously, it's had some time to marinate. We now have the official announcement from Mark Carney, obviously the official announcement from Chrystia Freeland as well, that they would both run for the Liberal leadership. So the landscape has changed quite a bit. But I want to talk about this poll really quickly first from Polywave. And I want to talk about this number. So this 251 number, if I'm going to be honest with you guys, a lot of people have been saying this. It's probably the ceiling that the Conservatives are going to reach. They're not going to get any higher than 251. And so the reason why I say that is because if you take a look right here, right now the Liberals are at 27. Okay, fine, very low. But they took 2 from the block from last week, so that's a change of 2 plus 2. And at this point, realistically, if you take a look at any map, I might make a video on that later on about the actual Canadian election map. Any sort of seats that the Liberals are going to gain, it's going to come from here. Because many of these 251 were Ontario seats, were BC seats, were Atlantic Canada seats that are just now being flipped to blue, or at least leaning blue. So there's no guarantee that the Conservatives will actually win those seats. Now, if you take a look right here, the federal votes projection is 47% for the Conservatives, 22% if you round it up for the Liberals. So still 25-point difference according to Polywave. Now, keep in mind, Polywave does sort of their own polling. 330 Canada does their own one. Oh, I shouldn't have shown that. I was going to show that later on. But I do want to show you guys this final show right now. So we have a brand new poll from a pollster called Ecos. And Ecos released this literally 2 days ago. So this is the newest poll that is up on 330 Canada, at least for the polls that they have included. And if you take a look right here, this is the closest that the Conservatives have been to the Liberals in almost, whatever it's been since Trudeau has been declining. It's been about 6 months. Look at this, 11-point difference. So a lot of people are talking about the 25, 20-point difference, whatever it is, and they're talking, oh no, that's pretty much only going to change when Trudeau resigns. It's going to keep going up. I don't know about this, guys. 11 points, I mean, that's very, very close margin if you really think about it, especially considering where the Liberals were before. Now, I know, 11 points, some people may say that's not really that close. However, when you consider the fact that the Liberals went as low as almost 13 points, according to some polls, and the Conservatives are up at 47 in some polls, that's like a 30-some-odd point difference, and now you're only 11 points. So it is a pretty big deal, and yes, it does translate onto the map. If we take a look right here, Real Albanian Pat, who I do look at his maps and whatnot quite a bit, he's actually very good for this. On his map, he's actually changed it quite a bit. Now, if you take a look right here, it does say minus 110, but that is minus 110 from 2021. So Main Street Research, they just conducted a poll. I'm going to talk about this one in a second, but this is the Main Street poll mapped out. So this mainstream poll was actually more favorable to the Conservatives than it was to the Liberals. So keep that in mind. So next time you think about why this map is like this way, keep in mind that it could have been a much worse map if you actually looked at Ecos. It could have been much worse for the Conservatives I'm talking about. Now, if you take a look right here, 235 seats, that is still obviously very good. If you think about it from an electoral perspective, that is a very large majority. However, the 50 seats is a big improvement from whatever the Liberals were at before, which is sort of that like 20 to 30 range, which they were floating at for quite a bit. And this does actually put them as the official opposition if they do achieve 50 seats. Now, obviously, it's not good because it's still 110 less than what they had in 2021. But at the same token, it is a big improvement from what they had before. And also keep in mind, they don't have a leader yet. Okay, Mark Carney has not won the leadership yet. Chrystia Freeland has not won the leadership yet. So once they get a leader, and once they could put a name, or a face to a name, I should say, it's going to change quite a bit. And I can guarantee that for you. The issue that people had, I'm going to keep stressing this, the issue that people had was not with the Liberal Party. Their issue was with Justin Trudeau. I've spoken to countless people, a lot of people in my comment section have as well, stated that they would actually consider voting for Mark Carney if he does release an economically sound policy platform. And the truth is, we could say whatever we want, we can argue whatever we want about Pierre Poilievre and his policies. The truth is, Pierre Poilievre does not have an effective policy platform. Pierre Poilievre does not have a vision for the country. As you guys know, if you guys have been paying attention to the news, he has not said anything about the tariffs. He has not said that he would impose retaliatory tariffs against the United States if Trump does go ahead with the 25% tariffs. We don't know if it's going to happen on day one. We know if it's going to happen in day two, whatever it may be. Trump is most likely going to impose the tariffs. And Pierre Poilievre, out of all the main party leaders that we have, Justin Trudeau stated he would impose retaliatory tariffs. Jagmeet Singh has as well. He's stated some sort of idea that is similar to that, obviously a bit different than Justin Trudeau's. But Pierre Poilievre is the only one that stays silent. Danielle Smith is the only premier that is not signed to an agreement that would essentially make a Team Canada United approach across all the premiers of Ontario, or all the premiers of Canada. Danielle Smith, the premier of Alberta, is the only one that has not signed on to that. Now I get it. You went to Mar-a-Lago. You want to, meet with Trump on your own. You want to think you're some big shot. Fine, go ahead, no problem. But guess what? You're not doing what's in Canada's best interest. You're doing what's in the best interest of the United States if you're not signing on to that agreement, or I should say that, whatever it was, pact that they had between the premiers, which, by the way, Doug Ford was leading, and I got to give him credit there. I'm from Ontario. I got to give him a lot of credit for what he's done. He's done a really good job with that and actually taking leadership in that respect. He's taken more leadership than Justin Trudeau in some respects as well, some would argue. Now I want to show this really quickly. Yeah, this is the Echoes one. And again, this is an interesting thing. This is an update on the Liberal MP endorsements. So let's look at this really quickly. So Carney has 16. So we're now shifting sort of onto the Liberal leadership and what's going to happen there. Carney has 16 MPs. Okay, so that's interesting because I did see an article. I don't know if we covered it on this channel, but I think we did, where there were 30 MPs who Carney had essentially gained support from through a call, obviously. But still, I mean, it's interesting that they're using this conservative number 16. That's interesting. Freeland is at 21 plus herself, so yeah, 22, I guess, in this case. And then Gould is 2 plus herself, so 3. And then this is Baptiste and Aria, who, by the way, this guy said he does not want to speak French. He has no chance of winning. He literally stated in an interview, I have no interest in speaking French, or something along those lines. So yeah, you're not going to win, unfortunately. But yeah, these are the main two. So it's going to be a Carney-Freeland matchup. As we know, Christy Clark did drop out. Not really drop out because she didn't officially announce her candidacy, but she said that she will not be running for the leadership. Champagne did as well. Jolie did as well. So again, we're seeing some big time people dropping out. It seems more and more like that it'll be a Freeland-Carney matchup, pretty much just those two going at it head on. And it'll be interesting to see those debates. So I'm going to be covering that on this channel. We're going to be talking about those debates once it does happen. I don't know if they're going to be in English or in French. I'm assuming they'll have to do one in French at least. Now, that was one thing that Carney did have an issue with. Carney's French is not that good, to say the least. So that's one criticism that people have. Obviously, he was not doing great in terms of that. But again, I think if you take a look at every single poll where you ask people if they would be willing to vote for the Liberals if they got a new leader, it is almost always a guarantee that people would be at least willing to consider it if they had a new leader. And if that new leader is Mark Carney, who worked at Goldman Sachs, worked in Toronto, New York, Tokyo, London, was a governor of 2 central banks. By the way, he led Canada through the Great Recession. He was a pretty good central banker at the time. He knew how to run monetary policy. So he's a pretty successful guy. He's very rich as well. He knows a lot of people. He knows businesses. He knows how to make deals. He knows how to get deals done. You want someone who knows how to get deals done. And if you want someone to negotiate Trump, you need someone who understands business. That's the truth. Trump, you could say whatever you want about him. I'm not the biggest fan of him at all because I don't like what he's saying about Canada, but he does like getting deals done. He's a businessman at the end of the day. Whether he was a successful businessman or not, that's a whole other story. Mark Carney is also a businessman. Mark Carney is a businessman and he's a leader. So that's one thing that Mark Carney definitely has. Mark Carney is extremely intelligent. Pierre Poilievre has never been in business. He's never been a leader of anything in his life, frankly. I mean, you guys can look up his background. I'm not saying this to say that he's, stupid person or anything. Pierre Poilievre is not a stupid person by any means. But I'm just saying when it comes to negotiating, you want someone who has had experience in either business, leadership, or anything of that sort, which Mark Carney has frankly had. So a lot of people, I'm not talking about this from my perspective only. I'm talking about this from the most Canadians' perspective. Most Canadians tend to look at the new person if they're slightly different from the previous person. The issue with Justin Trudeau was that he was there for far too long. Okay, now if you put someone who's a bit different than Justin Trudeau, very different in the case of Mark Carney, who is going to change things up, who's not going to impose the carbon tax or whatever, is going to scrap it, which Mark Carney has sort of implied that he would. We'll just have to see if he actually does go through with that. When you have someone like that, you really have a chance to sway the populace and sway the electorate in your favor. And the truth is, you guys can say whatever you want, but the truth is the Liberals have a built-in advantage with the current Canadian electoral system. Now, I will say this, the Conservatives do win Alberta, Saskatchewan all the time. That's pretty much a given for them. But provinces like BC, provinces like Ontario, provinces like obviously the Maritimes, those areas are very susceptible to Liberal rule, and they can easily flip, just like this. If Mark Carney ends up running, or I should say if he ends up winning the leadership, keep in mind he will be the prime minister if he does win. So whoever the next leader is, whether it's Freeland or Carney, will be the prime minister for a few months at least. So that'll be something as well. They have incumbency, which is also a built-in advantage for any leader that is running for election, or in their case, I guess, yeah, you would consider election, not re-election. But anyways, Main Street has a new poll as well. So Main Street is probably the best pollster. I don't really know much about Echoes, except for the fact that they just released this new poll. I've seen one of their polls before, but I do know a lot more about Main Street. Main Street is very good. 2,200 adult sample size. That's a pretty large amount. And if you take a look right here, they have the Conservatives down by 3, going down to 45 points. The Liberals up by 7. So Liberals jumping from 19 points to 26, which is astonishing. Because now the lead is only 19, according to Main Street. Now I say only 19, but what it was before was a 48 to 19, which is what? I don't know, what is that? Like 20-something? 29? So you went from 29 to now 19. That is a 10-point difference, guys. Okay, that's a 10-point difference. That's huge. That's huge. And that is only about 2 weeks since Justin Trudeau's resigned. Actually, technically a week. It was January 10th to 15th. So what's going to happen in the next 3 weeks? What's going to happen once they get a new leader? I'm not talking about Chrystia Freeland because that's a whole other story. I will say, if Chrystia Freeland does end up winning the leadership, these numbers are not going to be increasing at that rate. They will increase slightly, but I don't think they'll increase as much because I just don't think that Chrystia Freeland has any chance of surviving or helping the Liberal Party survive because she's not even winning their own riding. So that's going to be an issue for her. Mark Carney, on the other hand, he's an outsider. We don't know much about, what riding he's running in. He's running somewhere in Edmonton, I'm aware. I don't know which exact riding, though, but he's probably going to win his own riding, I mean, if I were to guess. So these numbers will probably go up if he ends up becoming the leader. So if I'm a Liberal, I'm not saying I'm like a Liberal strategist or anything, but I'm saying if I am a Liberal, I'm thinking, okay, who's going to give me a better chance of increasing these numbers and taking away not from these numbers? I don't care much about the NDP numbers if I'm a Liberal. I care about this number, this 45 chunk. I care about taking from this because these are former Liberal ridings. These are former Liberal voters. I would say they're not really discontent with the Liberal Party, obviously. They're discontent with Justin Trudeau's policies. Keep in mind, a lot of these people are also PCs, so progressive conservatives who are just voting conservative because they don't like the fiscal policies that the Trudeau government was imposing. They don't like their fiscal irresponsibility. And so that's why they're going with the Conservatives, because the Conservatives have already established, for the most part, I mean, they don't really have a complete concrete plan, but for the most part, they've been speaking in fiscally responsible terms. I'm talking about Pierre Poilievre. And so that's why they're gravitating towards this. The truth is, guys, if you can afford to put food on the table, you are going to vote for whichever party is going to help you do that. And the party of Justin Trudeau, the Liberal Party of Justin Trudeau, I'm not talking about just the Liberal Party in general. I'm talking about the Liberal Party of Justin Trudeau, aka the progressive, far left wing party of the Liberal Party, wing of the Liberal Party. They were taking away from the PC voters. They were taking away from the Red Tories. They were taken away from those people who were fiscally conservative but socially progressive. And that was the issue with Justin Trudeau. Now that you have a new leader, or that you are going to have a new leader, this number is going to change quite dramatically if you do, in fact, pick the right leader, which in my view would be Mark Carney, because I think he gives them the best chance of winning. So that's just my perspective. Again, I'm not providing my own opinions on this. I'm just saying I'm thinking about it from the electorate. Okay, the electorate is much different than I am, much different than you guys are. The general electorate is a lot more sympathetic to change, which in this case, we obviously are seeing change with the Liberal Party. So we'll just have to see what happens. I mean, obviously the election for the party leader will happen sometime, probably in early March or late February. And March 9th, we will know who is the next Prime Minister of Canada. So stay tuned. Thank you guys for watching. Again, I'm working on that video that will be dropping sometime. Again, not sure, but I'm still making these videos once in a while because I think it's important to talk about these poll numbers, especially when they come out and talk about what's going on with the current Liberal Party situation, because the situation keeps evolving every day. So stay tuned for more, and thank you guys for watching.